Oh, you guys are still here. Well, welcome back. I'm Sean, and this is V-Twin Revolution, your source for all Harley-Davidson information, where I bring you back home with me. Yup, it happened again, and it is, I'm about to look at my watch, but I'm not wearing my watch. It's almost midnight, and I've got a couple of things that I need to do tonight to finish this motorcycle up. I already filmed how to change brakes. Tonight, I'm going to remove the plastic intake manifold. The one thing that Harley should have never put on this motorcycle, which was the dumbest thing ever. Like, I know that I rag on Harley a lot. Like, this is my lifeblood, and I love Harley-Davidson. Like, for 20 years, I have eat, sleep, and breathe and bleed Harley-Davidson. And that's why I can talk the crap that I talk about them, because I've seen over the course of 20 years just some of the dumbest things. This happens to be the dumbest thing. Now, whether it was to save money or whatever the case may be, or some millennial was like, bro, we should put plastic on there because we could save like 20 cents. And Harley was like, 20 cents? Heck yeah. So we're going to install the S&S metal intake manifold, and I'm going to show you the process for that. So hold on, because we're going for a ride. So now there are other manifolds out there. There is the S&S. There is the Screaming Eagle. You have HPI, which I think theirs is probably a billet aluminum. I think an S&S even makes a billet aluminum one. I think Screaming Eagle might make a billet aluminum one. Or is theirs just, I think theirs is just regular, whatever. I have no preference when it comes to, now if you're building a big inch motor, you want to go with something that's going to get the airflow in there a lot more smoothly and efficiently. But if you're just running a stock motor looking to upgrade, then one of these cast manifolds is perfectly fine. So we're going to get the tank off, but I'm sure some of you out there are like, how do I get this tank off? That's bonus tip number one for the night. How do you get the tank off? How do you get the tit off? How do you get the tank off? Well, I'm about to show you. So let's go in for a closer look. So in order to get the tank off, there's a bolt there, a bolt there. You just remove those two bolts. And then there's a bolt there and a bolt directly on the other side in the exact same spot. The biggest mistake that I see people make when they're trying to get their tank off is they'll pull this completely out. Now, this is routed a specific way. Do not pull this out. Just don't do that. Separate these. Separate these. Just all you got to do is just pull it apart, and now it's a lot harder than that. And then all you got to do is just unplug your fuel pump connector. Boop. Get that out of the way. Now that you have those out of the way, this tank, and your check valve. All you do is you push up, and this will pop down. You get it out. Here, we'll just see how easy that was. You just push up, that'll pop down and come out like that. A little bit of gas is going to come out, and that's totally fine. So what I like to do when I'm going to grab the tank, I'll grab these two, like your fuel vent hose and your fuel pump harness, and then I'll grab the back tab like this, and then I'll grab it at the front, and Bob's your uncle. The tank's off. So let's talk about what we're going to do. So first of all, you're going to need to get your horn off. You're going to need to get your intake off completely. Once we get the intake off, then that's kind of where, things are going to start getting a little bit different. But we'll get the horn bracket off to allow access to the back two intake manifold bolts. And then we'll start taking some connectors off. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull this horn bracket off. It's 9/16. Once your horn bracket's off, just peel that Christmas tree zip tie out of there. All right, once your horn bracket's out of the way, just kind of move this out of the way. You guys can see that exposes your injectors, and then the 2 bolts down here that you probably can't see, your 2 intake manifold bolts, which we will need a special tool for this. So we're going to remove the intake. And then things just fall all over the place. So we'll remove these 3 bolts and then the 2 breather bolts. Be aware that most of these backing plates, if it is an aftermarket breather, they do have O-rings. So you do not want to lose those. Or the gasket. Alright, now let's get a little pointer sticker thing. So we're going to remove the induction module plug, we'll remove the map sensor plug, and then we'll fish our fingers through there, remove the injectors, get the injector on the other side, get all this wiring out of our way. So this just slides forward, and then you pinch and wiggle it off. And just move that over and out of the way. So the map sensor, slide that forward, press down, and then that slides right off. We are going to be taking this bolt, that bolt, and then that bolt right there off. All right, so we're going to get the intake manifold or the induction module off itself. Those are 5mm screws. We're going to get those taken off now. Set that out of the way, somewhere secure. And now we have the induction module is free. We're going to get the injector wires unplugged. So come through on this side, unplug, and then just pull that back to you. And then the other side. And you can't mix these up. I mean, you could, but it's pretty simple. Gray is front, black is back. We're going to need to get the map sensor off, and we'll need to get the injector rail off. So the key to this job, doing it without removing any of this stuff, is getting this injector rail off. You have to get that off first, because it's about impossible. And you can break these injectors if you try to force it. So we're going to get the fuel rail off, and then we will slide this thing kind of down and fish it out. So to gain access to the 2 fuel rail, they're Torx T27s, we're just going to slip a 1/4-inch ball Allen in there, and we're going to bust loose the intake manifold bolts. I'll have to go on the other side and loosen it so that I can pitch this down so that I can get these. So this cool fancy tool that I was talking about, it's basically a 1/4-inch ball Allen. It's actually a wrench made by Matco. There are, I think, K-Star. There's a company called K-Star. If I can find it, I'll link it. But this is an intake manifold wrench. But like I said, a stubby ball Allen or a stubby 1/4 inch Allen wrench works just as good. Break that loose. I'll pitch that forward some. I'm going to work from the other side right here so that you can kind of see what's going on. So I'm manipulating this the oil coolant line around quite a bit, and you can do that. You're not going to harm it. So just whatever you got to do to just kind of move it around and out of your way. So that you can get those intakes or the we're just going to pull this out. And then off that comes. Intake manifold is free to get out. We just have to remove the bolts the rest of the way. You want to loosen these back ones up quite a bit. Once you've got that, like, you just kind of work that. It should come out, yep. So you always want to make sure you clean your gasket surfaces really well. So we're going to clean this up. Make sure we get all the oil or any dirt and debris off of there. Now that our intakes are clean, we can get set up to go back in. So you can see that, like, this thing was getting ready to start have problems. So again, I don't know why Harley decided to put a plastic intake manifold on there, but we're going to fix this. So peel your old gasket out, throw that away to the side, whatever. Peel your other gasket. And then we're going to clean these up a little bit, and then we're going to put our S&S manifold together. Woo-wee, look at that. So because this has been in a cardboard box, just clean the gasket surface up. Make sure everything is nice and clean. Set that on there like so. Get your intake seal pushed on there. But it doesn't really like push on there, just kind of get it seated nicely. All right, now something that I do that seems to make my life a lot easier. A little bit of grease. This is basically O-ring chain grease. But I'll get a little bit on my finger, like a little bit. And I'll take and I'll wipe on this seal. And what that does is it allows that seal when we're fishing this in there, that's not a dry seal rubbing on a clean, dry surface. So that seal will just slide right on in there, or it'll just slide right on in there, and then we can kind of get everything put where it needs to be. So I need to get the map sensor installed on there, and then we can get this put back in. So the map sensor is just a little T25 Torx. You just pull that out. Wipe that off. I always like to try to wipe things off, make sure they go in clean. Stick that on there. And then you don't have to use any Loctite because this didn't come with Loctite on it from the factory. and this won't come out. But just give it a good and tight, and then that's done. Now all we got to do is just, and it's going to help you. So these divots right here is where your intake bolts kind of align. So if you pre-align them going in, you're going to move them just a little bit, but not a whole lot. So we're going to get this thing in there now, guys. So I'm going to try to like work around. So this is going to be a little bit tricky. So if the camera moves, but basically what we're going to do is just slide this up and in. Take your ball Allen, kind of fish that in there, give it a little bit of a shake. Cool. Now we just need to get our injector rail on there, get those bolts tightened up, and then it's kind of, we'll go over how to assemble this and make sure everything's where it needs to be. All right, guys. So put you a little bit of, like, again, very small amount on your fingertips. Get those O-rings lubricated. And then that way when you go to slide it in, they just kind of bloop, pop right in. But one thing I wanted to point out is when I said that you can break these injectors, is these are directional from Harley. They say that they've got a direct pattern that they spray. So they have little channels that this, like, and so when I said you can break them, like you can actually break this fuel rail, and then you have a bad day. So just be careful when you're taking out and putting back in, and being aware of your situation that you're in, and not trying to force something. If you have to force something, then you've got a problem. So just work with what you've got. Walk one side in, and then push down. And that thing's seated. So we're going to get these bolts back in and fight this. Like I said, you can manipulate this, move it around some, whatever you need to do. You're not going to harm this. Just don't pry on it or try to bend it or anything like that. So we'll get this squared away. So these bolts, like I said earlier, you can get them in there with just your fingers until you have to get them, until you have to tighten them. Now comes the fun part. Just nice and snug. And now fight the other one. All right, so that's in, that's tight, those are tight. Now we need to get our backing plate back on. After we get the O-ring that goes here, and then our induction module, then we get our backing plate. But we can go ahead and plug our injectors back up. That way you don't forget about them. Make sure your wire routing is exactly the way that it was when you took it off. Nice clicks. That's what you want to hear. And I'm going to leave this one off and this out of the way so that these two are easily put back on even when you've got the intake on. Now you will have to make sure that goes around, but we'll get to all that. The S&S comes with a nice new O-ring to go. Just kind of make sure that sits in there nicely. And then your induction module, on the back side. That's what that looks like. So we're going to clean that off. All right. Get your induction module. Once you get those kind of set in place, you can come back, snug them up. They do not have to be super duper tight, just nice and snug. All right, now this is still loose. Make sure you get your routing correct. You want to hear that click. Make sure everything is nice and tidy. All right, so I have my backing plate cleaned up, and we are going to get a couple of these bolts started, because this gasket on the back side, it's not one of those sticky types. All right, so the reason that we're leaving the backing plate, or the reason that we're leaving the induction module loose is so that we can make sure that we get the alignment right on the head bolts or the breather bolts. And by doing that, now I can move this up and down a little bit and get it right exactly in the center. Lock these down. Go ahead and tighten these up as well. And then I can come back and I can tighten these up evenly. So you don't want to just completely tighten these down and then come over here. I'll snug these up to where they just start to get somewhat snug, and then I'll jump over here on the other side and I'll start snugging these up. Then I'll just pull up on this a little bit or down, and make sure your throttle or your twist grip wire is still free, not pinched. So comment down below, what kind of air cleaner setup are you running? What are your future mod plans? And I forgot to stick that on there, which I have an Allen wrench, so just kind of dumb anyways. I'm gonna tell Jamie, guy that owns this bike, man, really, you want this dumb stuff on your bike? He just lost 10 horsepower by having this little thing on here. I took his man card too. All right. But yeah, comment down below. What are your future mod plans? What are you doing? A cam like this? So I installed a SNS 475 in this bike. I cut and gut his head pipe on this bike. I've literally done all the work to this motorcycle. Installed the T-bars, installed the JRI front suspension. I installed the rear suspension. I've done all the work to this motorcycle. This guy he's a good dude, and been a loyal customer of mine. And you see, I just kind of snug that up just a little bit. Now I'm going to jump to the back side and snug those up. And these do not have to be super duper. I put the Wamboozle to it tight. Just good and snug. Because these, for whatever reason, seem like the longer they're on there, the tighter they get. Cool. Plug your map sensor back in. Nice clicks. Everything's nice and neat and tidy out of the way. There we have it. S&S intake manifold, or Harley-Davidson Screaming Eagle one, or HPI, or whatever brand that you're using. It's literally that easy, guys. Hey, there I am. So I was stuck behind the camera. I have literally been working like this the entire time. That's tough. That is really tough. All for you. All for you. Just so you can get the full effect, so that you can see what's going on, and not me like standing like this in the way and be like, oh yeah, you just want to tighten this up. Be like, bro, I can't see nothing. So, little recap. So we removed the intake, then we removed the induction module, we loosened everything up, was able to get to the fuel rail bolts, loosened the intake manifold bolts, and then it all just came out after removing the horn and the bracket, or the horn bracket. Installation was just the exact opposite of that, with the exception of you want to leave this loose, so that you can get all of this aligned, and then that way you're not fighting yourself, and you're like, with this already snug down, you're all like, just leave this loose, and then your life will be so much easier. Come back, make sure all your fasteners are tight. I did put a little drop of blue on these, and then I'm actually going to take his breather to work tomorrow and clean that. In the meantime, I'll go ahead and get the tank stuck back on. So let's get the tank back on, and yeah, and then we'll kind of be done for the night. Well, you'll be done for the night. I'll still be up working, and I want to say that it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, maybe 1:30. Yeah, I got about another 45 minutes worth of work. So it'd be a 2 o'clock night just to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Whew. Yeah, how about those kind of days? So that is the worst part that Harley has ever put on their motorcycle. A plastic manifold. Like, seriously, guys, like, what are you even thinking? So I'm going to get the tank on, and then we're going to button this up, and we'll finish this video out. And I just, like, first of all, in America. Like, sound like, yeah, you know who. You know, when I'm shooting these videos, it's always a struggle, like, because I shoot it on a GoPro, and I use audio, which my audio took a crap. So if it sounds like crap, well, it's because my audio was like, nah, I'm leaving the chat. I'm done. So when I'm filming these videos, it's always like, I'm wondering, like, I'm looking, like, does that even look like, can they even see what I'm doing? And this is echoing like crazy. So that's probably going to sound great. So yeah, like, and then whenever I get it on the computer, I'm like, oh man, I look so friggin' dumb. So I'm past the point of caring whether I look dumb or not, because I've just realized that I look dumb. So I'm cool with it. My impact gun's been acting dumb all night. Audio got dumb. We have a little saying at the shop. When you've been working on a motorcycle and you had the tank off, and you plug your fuel pump harness up, turn the motorcycle on, you're like, and you're like, you'll hear somebody holler across the shop, turn the gas on, stupid. And then you got to go over there, and so that fuel pump has already pressurized that line to 60 psi, and you go to plug the fuel line in, and then it sprays gas all over the place. It's crazy. That was a terrible story. Thank you guys for watching. I've got more work to do, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace. No, I'm just kidding. I'm back.